So what happened was, when this was happening, he wasn't worried, the slave. He wasn't worried. And then I think the master asked him, why isn't he worried? He said he has already cured himself.
Welcome to the African Experience Podcast, your podcast for fascinating discussions, stories, and interviews from the diaspora. Your host, Two Ordinary Africans.
Hello, fellas, and welcome to today's episode of the African Experience Podcast. I'm your co-host, Abdul Hafiz.
And I am Yakubu Ali.
Yakub, how are you?
I am good.
You're good?
I am a very optimistic person.
You're a very optimistic person?
Yeah, I've been sick for quite some time, but I'm good now.
Oh, okay.
What about you?
I'm good, man. Alhamdulillah. I've had a very torrid week, actually. 2 weeks. Yeah, meetings, that's not actually finishing. We still have to meet on Monday. I've been doing some things here and there. So in general, I think this couple of weeks have been very hectic, more than usual. And hopefully it's all going to be for the best.
Yeah, of course. And I don't know what you think about the vaccine, and do you think by the end of this year we are going to do away with the coronavirus?
By the end of this year?
Yes.
Oh man, I told you the other episode, that is very optimistic. All right, so even to imagine, to do a rough calculation in your head, there are 7 billion people in the world. And how many vaccines can be made for 7 billion people? Even if it can be made, how long will it take it to inoculate 7 billion people? And how are we going to fight those anti-vaccinators? Right? There are a lot of factors. And the vaccine itself, it will take a long time for people to accept, and the companies will have to convince people that this vaccination is the actual vaccination. It's correct.
Well, congratulations, coronavirus. You are here to stay.
Honestly, look, it sounds a bit cynical when you tell people, bro, this thing is going to be here for a while.
Just get your things going, yeah.
The new normal. We think it's a joke. I mean, you can look at it all you care, but bro, it's a new normal. You have to adjust.
And I'm just calculating or thinking, how would people get rid of these masks? Immediately after the coronavirus? Is it easy for us to just throw them away, or it will be with us for some time?
I think, do you know what? I'm a little grateful for the mask. Not for what, I don't think one of the reasons is, or maybe the reason it will protect you from COVID is very low in my ranking. But the top reason here in Turkey, there are a lot of smokers.
Yes.
Whenever I'm passing by a smoker, I'm like grateful for wearing a mask.
Yeah, at least. It saves you from that horrible.
That, and then I think statistically, the doctors are saying it has reduced normal cold, winter cold, winter what you call grip, right? Cold.
Yeah, or flu.
Flu. Sorry, I totally blanked. Flu. So I guess that's a positive. So in general, maybe it's not just generally bad. So yeah, you have to look that way.
All the best to us, to the people of the world.
And very funny that you mentioned vaccination. I came across, I was looking at the history of vaccination, especially in the United States, right? I don't know if I can remember the story exactly right. So the period of smallpox that ravaged the United States, it was during the slavery period. So there was this slave who was obviously taken from Africa, and he was working for his master. I wish I could remember the name they gave him so that people could go and research him. But if you go research anything to do with smallpox vaccination or inoculation in the United States, most probably you can find the story. So what happened was, when this was happening, he wasn't worried, the slave. He wasn't worried. And then I think the master asked him, why isn't he worried? He said he has already cured himself. And this was surprising to the master, right? And so the master then asked him how he did that. So he said, back where he came from, I think he came from, I don't remember, man. Was he an Igbo slave? I don't remember. I wish I did. So what happened was, he said, back home where he came from, if something like this happens, like a very infectious disease that starts spreading around the people, what happens was they take something. Oh man, the details of the story is I'm hazy about. They take something from an infected person, and then they inoculate themselves with it. How they did it, I don't remember what he said, but the healthy people take it, and then they never get that disease. So this master was perplexed, obviously. So he called the doctor, and then he told his other people. So, but they weren't convinced.
Interested.
Why would you get an advice from a slave, the lowest of lowest, right?
In the first place.
Exactly. So they didn't take it, but it was still killing people. One brave doctor took that advice and applied it, and this man saved about 700,000 people. But he's nowhere to be mentioned. His proper name is nowhere to be mentioned. Even if they're mentioning vaccination, there's no references to him unless you go a bit deeper. He's not credited for saving. Yes. You see, so there are stories like this that has happened over and over and over in the United States and other places, but unfortunately have been covered up. So very interesting you mentioned that. It just came to mind.
Thank you for the information. And it's quite unfortunate that has been the culture, especially within the Western scholars or something like that. In the first place, as you said, the person has been recognized as slave. So there's no need for them.
Who knows how many people?
Of course.
Yeah.
But all the best. So what do we have for today?
Yeah. So today we were going to have a reflection so far of what we've done, and maybe talk about some of our best episodes and how other people have reacted in general to the podcasts, however small of crowd of audience we have, but it's all slow and steady wins the race, right?
Yes.
Actually, funny about that statement, slow and steady wins the race. It shows how weird English is. So, slow and steady wins the race, except in an actual race.
In actual race, you just lose.
You're just going to lose. You're not going to say, okay, slow and steady wins the race. So let me just go slow.
But you know, I can't remember, or I don't remember the name of that form of racing. There is a racing that they go, I think, is it 10 times?
Marathon?
Or...
You're talking about marathon?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Normally those who end up winning, they kind of start slowly.
I won't call it slow. That's not slow, though.
Or steady. I don't know,
it's a strategy. So they start without exerting a lot of energy. I guess that's what you mean.
Yes.
So that they can conserve energy.
And then during the last part, then you see them.
Yeah, but that's not slow. Then they start running fast.
Yes.
So anyhow, fast will win your race. Right?
That's quite interesting.
Obviously, we human beings, we use some phrases that really do not make sense. Right? I've been thinking about a lot of phrases. Like yesterday, my roommate, what exactly did he say? He said, "Be my guest." So I told him, what exactly did that mean? Be my guest. All right, I understood. All right, do what you want to do. But I'm like, okay, what does that mean? How can I be your guest? Right? So phrases like this, and recently also, I can only imagine and I can't imagine. They both mean the same thing. Like, how can you imagine? I can only imagine, bro. I can't imagine, but they all mean the same thing. Am I confusing your head?
No, it's just, I just think like it's the opposite of each other or something like that.
Actually, in normal spoken English, it's not the opposite. So for example,
it's the same.
Someone says, I am going through this. And you'll be like, I can't imagine what you're going through. Right? Or you can say, I can only imagine what you're going through. So basically you mean the same sentiment. Well,
it will not be fair for me to be having this kind of discussion with you, especially. So whatever you say is
also
fine.
One last one. Why is horrible and horrific all bad words, but terrible and terrific are opposites? One is bad, one is good.
We need to ask the Queen who introduced us to these languages.
Yeah, languages are fascinating for me in general.
Yes.
They're really fascinating.
There are some scholars or social theorists who give importance to these kind of things.
I'm not one, but I do think
it plays a very important role in understanding
history,
people in society, and history as well.
Yes, 100%. Anyways, we're kind of going on a tangent. And also, when did we come up with the phrase "Hello, fellas"? Bro, I'm just wondering, how did that come up?
You mean within our podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just came up. It's also part of the English language.
I don't know who,
but I think it's give this kind of connection.
It's good. I mean,
people.
We could say friends. We could say
listeners. You can say mates. You can say any other thing. But I think it's nice. I like it actually.
It's catchy though. It's catchy. Hello, fellas. Right? Oh man. Yeah. So. Yeah, like you said, let's get straight to what today's episode is going to be about. I mean, today's episode is going to be more light. We don't have any new topic, so to speak, right?
we are rather not going to talk about any new topic. We chose this one.
Yeah. You see exactly. Words have meaning. We have topics, but rather we're going to talk about something much
else.
more calmer, right? Much more without less controversial.
Because we feel it's necessary. At least there should be a kind of retrospection. Of what we did.
Reflection, retrospection, looking back.
To what we did, and this will happen once in a while. We'll be doing something like this.
Definitely.
Just a kind of relaxed discussion of what has happened so far and how we can make this even much better.
I agree.
So, yes.
So actually, before we do start that, do you remember how the idea of us having a podcast came about?
Yes, I can say. It's all about you and me. We kind of have this. We don't talk that much.
Yeah.
But when we talk, it's kind of take like hours.
Yeah, it does.
You understand? And it starts from a casual conversation to history, to philosophy, to the meaning of language, as you said.
That is true.
And to so many other issues. And we thought like, okay, if we can spend these hours talking about these things, trying to understand what is going around us, why not us record it, share it with other people, and maybe we can get a feedback from people or someone who can even enlighten us on what we understand. Because unless you share your ideas with other people, you don't know whether you are right or wrong. And most of the time, we always think we are right in our head. Yes, but the moment you open up, the moment you talk to people, you realize that what you believed or what you used to know isn't what is actually the reality. You kind of unlearn what you used to know. And I remember some other time, was yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was having some kind of discussion. I don't want to use the word argument because it also has some kind of negative
connotation. That's true.
Yeah. And a discussion about what is drug abuse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he was giving me definition based on his own understanding, and I said I don't agree. And he's saying, no, you just decided not to agree with me. I said, no, it's not about agreeing with you. It's about understanding you. If I don't understand you, there is no agreement over there. But I have to understand you. And I said, even between us, we can say whatever we want to say, which could be a general knowledge or a basic knowledge, until we get an expert on this topic who will let us know what drug abuse really means and what we can classify as drug abuse and what we cannot. And the same thing happened to us when we were going to I've forgotten the English name. Ilachlama. We are going to fumigate our house.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And we invited the guys who do that work, and they came into the house and they realized that we removed all the things in the house in the middle and put it in the middle of the house.
Yeah.
And they were asking us like, why did you do that? We said, you're going to fumigate the house. So we thought there are some things that we should remove so that, because we use it always.
Yeah.
We don't want to be poisoned. And he said, you didn't have to do this. And we said, we have to leave the house. He said, no, you don't have to leave the house. And then we asked him, what about the scents or the smell of the product they are going to use?
Yeah.
He said, no, that is in the past. And I was telling my friends, like, you see, we believe something that is now not relevant. But we always believe that if you are going to fumigate the house, you have to leave the house, because you don't want to be affected.
Yeah.
So it comes back to our discussion, like, yes, no matter what you have in your mind or you think, as long as you don't open yourself up, you are always right.
I do agree.
And you lose the ability to learn. So that's where it started. That is what I remember. I don't know, maybe you have something to add to it or to take off, but that's what I remember.
Yeah, I actually feel like I remember the day we decided. Actually, I remember where I was sitting. Anyways, like what you said is very true. So if you, in general, if you do not allow your thoughts or your theories to be tackled or to be critiqued, so to speak, questioned,
or interrogated,
exactly, or whatever word you want to use, you won't get a clarity whether you're right or wrong. Maybe you might be right and everyone might be wrong. Who knows? But It's always good. There is this book, and I'd recommend it to a lot of people. The title of the book is Asking the Right Questions, A Way to Critical Thinking, something like that. And it's an amazing book. It makes you contemplate on what you say, right? Or your belief in general. So people always think, like you said, they think they're right? So we're scared to tackle our own belief, ask our own belief questions about our own beliefs. Exactly. So in turn, it makes us lazy, right? So we're scared to go into any debate or any discussion that would shake our belief system. Right.
Exactly.
And that book shows you in detail. You don't necessarily have to fear, right? You might be in the wrong all the while you've been thinking you're in the right. So yeah, it's a very good way.
And sometimes it can even give you more reason to even be firm in your belief. You don't know.
That is exactly why you should do that. You see? Yes. That's exactly why you should do that. When you live in a place, in a bubble, you never get to know anything else outside the bubble. You'll be scared, basically.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So I do remember when we kind of decided to turn it into a podcast. Like you said, when we start having conversation, we go a bit deeper than we'd intended initially, right? And then we said, I think I was sitting in the hall, and then we had that conversation. So yeah, me personally, in general, I already had this idea of having a podcast.
Yes, and I remember you even recorded one or two of it. Yes,
I did.
Yes.
I have a couple of podcasts because in my initial podcast was the African entrepreneur. I was thinking, the young African entrepreneur, and then I was too lazy for that, and time also wasn't necessarily on my side. And we talked, and then you said, yeah, this. Even after that, it took us a long time. Remember?
Yes, I think it's more than even 2 months for preparations, what we should use and how we should use it. But coming into the podcast for the benefit of education, do you think there should be a prior knowledge of anything before I know you are very familiar with the technicalities of these things. Do you think there should be a prior knowledge before anybody start a podcast? And can anyone start a podcast? That's the basic question.
Yeah, that's good. So technology has made things easy in general. Before today or before now, podcasts in general hasn't been something that people really knew about, right? And there are some tools you can use. If the question basically is, if I kind of simplify the question you ask is, how can someone who wants to start a podcast start a podcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is how it started. I think the first podcast I listened to was back in 2014, somewhere there. And from there on, I became hooked to podcasts because the fact of sitting down and watching people even arguing on YouTube or having discussion for a long time, for an hour and a half, didn't really make sense to me in this way, right? So, for example, for me, even the reason why I do not like watching too long movies, if I have a movie that is about 2 hours, I'll watch it probably in 3 days.
Yes.
Or I'd rather watch a TV series because it's just like 40 minutes, 30 minutes.
That's the reason why I've been in Turkey for quite a long time and I haven't watched one is it seasonal or series?
Series, yeah? Turkish TV series?
Yeah, I haven't. Because I am not good at that, just like you know.
Yeah.
When it get past 45 minutes, I become bored.
Yeah, that's true. I'm very in a similar way. Until recently, I watched one Turkish TV series fully.
Congratulations.
Bir Başkadır. Have you heard of that TV series?
No.
And I was hosted. I don't know why I didn't share this. I was hosted on another podcast. Alfred Onimisi.
Yes, okay. Yes. Let's do some small campaigning for him. Free advertisement for him.
I was actually on his podcast and we had, we talked about that TV series, right? Because he has a lot of Turkish audience and then most of his people are more like that kind. So we talked about it very deeply. It was very entertaining. So that's the only TV series I remember watching. So
it's boring for you to watch anything more than 1 hour on YouTube.
For me, especially when it's not like it's two people sitting in general, talking and then having those long hours, even though sometimes they're deep conversation, unless it intrigues me in a way, I won't necessarily finish watching all of it. Right. So when I started listening to podcasts, it's revolutionized my kind of consuming of these kinds of content. The reason being, with a podcast, I just need my phone and then a headset or earphone. Yeah.
Yes.
And I can do whatever I'm doing. When I'm walking to school, back then, when I was in school, when I'm in the bus, when I'm doing cleaning, you could be doing other things.
It's just like listening to an audio book.
Yes, exactly. Because initially I was skeptical. Having someone in your ears talking about something, wouldn't it be weird? Even I was a bit skeptical towards audiobooks too, until I listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad is the first fully audiobook I listened to because I felt like it's a book I needed to read, but I didn't have the time to read. So that is one thing about listening to podcasts and audiobooks. You don't have to sit and concentrate on that. You can be doing other things and still be concentrating on what you're listening, right? And have a note at the side. And then in case you hear something, you can have that note. You can come back and hear it again and listen to it again. So that's got me, I wouldn't say addicted, but that hooked to podcasts. And some of my favorite podcasts, if anyone is interested, I can actually list them. There's this guy, SPI, Smart Passive Income. That was one of my favorite podcasts. There's Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss's podcast is, I'd say, top 2 of my podcast. I think From Nothing. There are a lot of podcasts I listen to, or even Turkish podcasts too. So
yeah, there are thousands of them out there.
Yeah,
it's according to your interests, you can choose.
You can find. So that gave me this interest. Okay, I've always wanted to do something like this, and I wouldn't be I wouldn't like to be a person who would be the reason someone would sit down for hours and hours. And I don't want to call it waste their time. And listen to me, I wouldn't want to be the reason for someone to spend 1.5 hours or 1 hour on YouTube, right? So podcast was the best idea. That is why it took time.
I think YouTube too. It's more of a visual platform. So
exactly.
For me, I can depending on the topic that is being discussed, I can sit hours, 3 hours, and I remember there are some YouTube videos that you recommended to me. They are more than an hour, 2 hours. I can sit and just watch it.
Even those, I can be certain I didn't watch them in one take.
Yes. For me, when I sit, I watch. I make sure I finish it.
That's nice.
But it has to be interesting. I don't watch. Even if it's a 5-minute video, if it's not interesting, within 1 minute, I just stop watching it.
That is true.
You understand?
That is true.
So I think it's difficult for anyone who is doing a podcast to be sharing it on YouTube, because YouTube, you can't minimize it. You just have to keep it open.
Yeah, and you have to sit by it all the time.
You understand? And people don't have that time. So I think the podcast is kind of, as you said, a very, very portable thing. You can just move around, do some other thing whilst you listen to it. And I don't want to go into which one is better, Facebook or the podcast and other platform, or using YouTube.
It shouldn't be comparable. It shouldn't be.
Yes. But I think, as you said, it's a kind of revolution when it comes to a public discourse.
Yeah.
And trying to understand what is around us, a podcast. And I think it's growing.
It is.
People are getting used to it. And it depends where you live, actually. When you go to some countries, Spotify, the iTunes and all these things are very famous. People listen to it like we listen to radios back home in Africa. They listen everywhere they go. They are working, they are listening to it, they are doing everything. And it's growing. And now people too are realizing it and are taking part in it, right?
Exactly. It's really having its platform. For example, you made mention of Spotify, and they're the forerunners who are taking this platform onto a different stage. For example, let's also come back directly to the question so that we don't forget to answer that question. So if you want to start a podcast, for example, right now, the technicalities aren't as difficult as having a YouTube video, because a YouTube video, you need a lot more material. You need a lot more. If you want to make a proper YouTube channel, your camera, your sets, your room, a lot of things need to be designed to accommodate what YouTube listeners want or viewers want, right? With podcast, it's a bit easier, right? Even the editing part of a video is way more time consuming
and complicated compared
to an audio.
Yes.
Right? So that's even one advantage if you think of that as an advantage at all. So there are platforms that really cater to people who want to make podcasts, right? So the top platform right now, the one we use, is Anchor, right?
Yes.
Anchor right now has been bought by Spotify. So I think recently, about 2-4 days ago, they changed everything. And then right now it's saying Anchor by Spotify. If I remember correctly, it was bought by Spotify 2 years ago, about 200 and something million USD. And now Spotify fully owns Anchor. So what Anchor does to you...
It's free, right? You can download it.
It's free.
Anyway,
you can download Anchor free wherever you are, and you can start using it. And then the recording is very good.
Yeah, the quality is very high.
Good. What you do with Anchor is you can record a podcast on Anchor. It has a recording platform. You can invite someone through Anchor and then have a conversation with that person remotely. Right?
You don't have to be at the same place.
Exactly. You don't have to be at the same place. And then it will be recording. It's at the same time. So that is one positive of Anchor. And one other thing, I think the most important thing why I use Anchor or why we use Anchor in general is it's a distributorship or a distributor platform, right? Yeah. So if you upload a podcast or a recording on Anchor and then you publish it, within 3-4 days, it will publish it to other platforms. About 9 platforms, if I remember correctly. 7 or 9 platforms. So it will publish it for you on Spotify, obviously, because now it owns it. Castbox, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Radio FM, I think. Something like that. There are a lot of other platforms you can listen to any podcast, especially when it's recorded on Anchor. So it reduces the work. There are other platforms like Podbeam that does the same thing, but because I haven't used it, I don't think it does it as effective as Anchor does or as widely as Anchor does. So that is the advantage of Anchor. It makes it easier. The recording is quality. You can also add music. You can basically do everything with the phone. Yeah. You don't need to use other editing software.
Yeah, basically you can sit in your room with your phone in your hand, say whatever you want to say or share whatever you want to share with the world with your phone, edit it on the application, and then publish it. And with that, Anchor or Spotify, as you said, bought it, right? Yeah. Would share it on so many different podcast platforms for free, absolutely. And then there's something about Anchor too, because what Spotify is trying to do, in my opinion. So, for example, right now YouTube has no challenger. That is what we used to say, right, in Ghana. Any challenger, no challenger. Yes. YouTube has no challenger. What's competition, right? YouTube has no competition. But I think in the coming years, Spotify is going to be that. Because what Spotify has done is, there's this famous YouTube podcaster. So he has a podcast and then he has camera and he invites really top people. Elon Musk's, even former president. Is that the Rogan guy?
Yes, Joe Rogan. Yeah. Now, Spotify has bought Joe Rogan. I think this year or last year. They bought it for him for about 100 million USD.
He's a famous guy and his videos on YouTube go beyond 4 million, 5 million. And sometimes.
And one podcast of his is at least 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yes.
And people watch it. I'm just fascinated.
Yes, the people he invites are interesting people.
Yes, like Elon Musk.
Yes.
Right?
So even though it's long, 2 hours or sometimes more than 2 hours, people still watch it.
People do, That's it. So Spotify bought him, and overnight, Spotify they're worth 20 million a day before. 20 billion a day before. And the next day, 25 billion. Just because they bought this guy. You see?
Interesting.
Exactly. So now I think they're trying to include videos in they're trying to include videos too on their platform. So I think in the later years, Spotify will be a competition too.
And if you want to start using it, start it now, because it will get to a point where that tag free will go away.
Might be.
And you have to pay.
Never know. You never know.
Anything can happen.
But the thing about technology is the more you get the audience, the more free it gets. Like YouTube.
Yeah.
To record a YouTube video, you don't need money to upload, right?
But the thing is, YouTube now is kind of becoming boring.
Kinda.
Just like Facebook,
because
Facebook,
of their policies.
Yes, Facebook in the beginning, when you are doing something or watching something on Facebook videos or listening to something, you don't see those kind of annoying adverts. But now every second you see an advert.
Mark Zuckerberg,
and the same thing goes. Yes, the same thing goes with YouTube. Even though I know there are some technologies you can use to block all these things, but it's the same. At first, when you are watching YouTube, you are free to watch whatever you want. But now there's too much advertisement. You understand? And it affects the like I get bored and I even stop listening.
I understand. But unfortunately, there's no way around it.
Yeah.
There's even Spotify are going to have that. Because
I think so.
To make something free for the public, you need to add. That's where people misunderstand, right? For example, me, if it's a YouTuber I really like, I just leave the advertisement because I know I'm getting this content without paying him any money. The least I can do for that person is to watch or let that
just allow the advertisement to play.
Exactly. So there's a reason there's a 5 seconds advertisement to a YouTube video. It's not just anything. There's a reason.
Yes.
For you to watch at least 5 seconds of it.
So, yes.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to finish how to do the podcast. So
I think this one too, you have to do it in installments. We can't discuss everything in one episode.
So
this is once in a while we'll come and continue from where we end. Yes.
That's true. Once in a while, we will. This is one way of recording a podcast.
Because I think people are really interested in this. Yeah. They are asking, how do you do this? How do you do that? So we kind of take it one at a time. Now we are giving you some platforms, and we shouldn't forget when it comes to recording, there are other platforms too that you can use to record.
Most definitely.
But it might involve so many technicalities, so many trimming and all those kind of things.
Most definitely.
But Anchor is the kind of the easiest one.
Yeah.
It helps you with so many other things. Yeah.
You just need a phone. I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
A phone that can record. So yes, that's the beginning. I think we should also talk about maybe some other time. I know.
Definitely.
Targeting the audience. Who are you targeting? Some other ways to also support your podcast. For instance, we have our own sites. We have our social media platforms. We'll talk about how important are these things to making a podcast. I don't know if we have some final words for today.
No, in general, I think, like you said, in case also our social platforms are there for people to have direct contact to us, and if anyone has any questions with regards to podcasting, we can always answer them, and hopefully we get more involvement with our own podcast, which recently we've been getting, and it's exciting. People asking questions, and it shows.
And you can even ask for invitation. We can invite you. Come,
absolutely,
say your mind, disagree with us, or support our points, or let's have a discussion. It's yours.
Definitely. We're open to that. That is the main reason we have this podcast.
And there is also one thing that I want to say before we move on. It's very technical.
In general.
Sometimes if we talk about quality, if you want to give people quality content, and this goes across all the platform, even on YouTube, you said it very candidly, like you need so many other things to give people quality. And me, I said I will not do any YouTube video. I want to do video, but I will not do it until I get all the necessary equipment before I do it, because I want my first video to be of highest quality. You understand?
That never happens though.
So I think even we, as we are talking now, we get better as we are doing the podcast.
In a way, yes. I do it intentionally, right? Like you said, wanting to make your YouTube video the highest quality. For example, if we wanted to make the podcast the highest quality, would have had the time to go through every single step. But if there is any listener that has been listening from the beginning to now, would see an improvement.
Yes, exactly.
And in a way, I did it intentionally.
Yes, and I think I would like to take this opportunity and also representing our listeners to thank you, because you put an enormous amount of time in all these things, and I think we have to thank you. It's a wonderful work, and yes, it's a wonderful work, and people actually really like the way we present this catchy, the teaser, the way we do it. People really love it. Actually, you understand? It attracts people, and I know it's a kind of work that you put in. So we thank you very much, and we hope that we can even work harder to give our listeners the best of everything.
First, we need to thank the government for giving us 2 days lockdown. And that is helping so much.
You see, they say there is always positive thing, or there's always something good about anything.
Silver lining.
Most of the time, we think about the negative side of this pandemic, but it has ushered so many other opportunities. I agree, actually.
100%.
That most of the time we kind of oblivious to all these things. So yes, and we thank our listeners too for having time to listen to us. This is not the end of this episode. We are going to continue with it little by little, so that people can have a fair idea of how these things are done.
Definitely.
Together we can develop and grow, right?
Definitely. All right, man. That's nice. We've covered some ground, and it will be only fair to also thank you for actually giving your inputs, bro, because it's very important. We need perspectives and discussions from different views, and there are a lot of things we're going to disagree with, so we're going to talk about it in the future, and hopefully we can give the best we have. Basically, that's what we can do. So I guess this will be the end of today's podcast. And do you have any last words, bro?
Actually, I'm just extending our thanks to the other invites who came to our platform so far, and they've done a wonderful job. They've sacrificed their time. We know they are busy, but they came, and we are going to bring more of those people on our platform. So we have them listed. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
All right.
That's it.
Okay, listeners. Thank you for your time, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to express our views, and we hope you continue supporting the African Experience podcast. See you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the African Experience podcast. For show notes, visit us on www.theaexppodcast.com and follow us on social media at the AEXP Podcast.